call this meeting of the City Commission of St. Pete Beach to order. It is 6 o'clock p.m. on May 26, 2026. Would you please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. City Clerk, will you please do a roll call?
Commissioner Marriott?
Here.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Here.
Commissioner Causey?
Here.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Here.
And Mayor Tate?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you very much. Approval of the agenda. Do we have any amendments or changes to the agenda as it is?
Mayor and Commission, I'd like to propose to remove 2 items. The first one this evening is 4D, as we're working with PSTA to bring forward a joint presentation on this item at a future meeting. And then the second item is 5B. After receiving significant feedback from the Planning Commission at last week's meeting, staff would like a little more time to prepare to bring you a presentation that includes their feedback as well.
Can I had some ideas on that as well. Is that something I could submit afterwards to
Yes, ma'am.
staff? Great, thank you.
Okay. Any other proposed changes by the rest of the commission or city attorney, I guess?
No.
I'd like to add an item for discussion,
Okay.
and that would be shark fishing on the beaches.
We noted. Okay. Others before I? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the amended agenda, excluding specifically items 4D and 5B, and adding an item for discussion for shark fishing?
I move to approve the agenda as amended.
I second.
City Clerk, please.
Commissioner Marriott?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson?
Yes.
Commissioner Causey?
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado?
Yes.
And Mayor Tate?
Yes.
The motion carries.
Thank you. All right, going back to the agenda. Looks like we have 2 presentations, please. I believe we got Director Mills coming to do our first, given his posture and walking directly towards the, thank you.
Good evening, Mayor, Vice Mayor, Commissioners. For the record, Camden Mills, Public Services Director. It's my pleasure this evening to introduce Ecosphere Restoration Institute so they can give a presentation on living shorelines. They've been working on a project the past few years in the Don Cesar neighborhood and looking at some living shoreline natural adaptation solutions for our shorelines in that area. This project was supported by the city. We were co-applicants with a grant through the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, and we also helped support with some topographic survey for this project. It falls in line with our strategic initiative for resilience. And the end goal of this project, really from the city's perspective, is a published report on living shorelines that can be information that our residents and businesses can read and get educated on. But also, we're producing template designs that people that want to adapt their shorelines and install these living shorelines, they can use these type of designs as references, which should help save on some of those upfront costs in hiring an engineer and designer for your shoreline moving forward. But without anything further, I go and introduce Mr. Tom Reese with Ecosphere Restoration Institute.
Good evening, Mr. Reese.
Thank you for this time to talk about what we were talking about, living shorelines or living seawalls. So I know we all know what a natural shoreline is, but I really wanted to show this because it's important to understand. If you look at this picture, on the left all is upland, the dry land, and on the right it's really deep water. But all the action is happening in the between, right? That's where the juvenile fish are, that's where everything is life is. But when we take that out and put this in, all we have left is upland and deep water. We lost all that habitat value. And it's a shame because there's a lot of places we would need seawalls. In some places, we really were over-designed. And so if we're going to live in a high-energy place like this photo here and have your house really close to that water, you will need a seawall, right? So there's not like seawalls are not supposed to be here. They just need to be put in the right place. This seawall, if you follow it inland, it goes in these back coves where there is no energy, where you don't have to have a solid wall like that. And that was just put in so the developer can put an extra row of houses in. So the problem is these things don't last forever, right? They ultimately fail, and they're very expensive. They can be as much as $2,000 a linear foot. Depends what kind of tiebacks and conflicts and pools and stuff like that. So it's a very expensive thing, and they don't have a long shelf life. So if they're in this shape, what can we do to fix them? And it's not just a Florida problem, right? There are parts around the country that have 80% of all their shoreline hardened. Broward County is one of those places, and in this region here, we're over 50% hardened shoreline. And if you take a look at this aerial here, it's hard to believe, but in here is 22 miles of seawall. Just if you start following around all those edges, it adds up, and that's a lot of hardened surfaces, and there's no room to take those out, right? I mean, there's just tight canals and small lots. So what can we do as these seawalls start to fail and need to be replaced? Can they be replaced in a manner that provides some ecosystem services and even extend the life of the seawall? And that's what we want to talk about. So we've done these projects where a seawall will stay in place. We just put rocks and plants in front of it. So there are living seawalls now, and that rock that we put in front of the seawall is actually protecting the seawall, so the waves aren't hitting it and causing resuspension of sediments, et cetera. And this is just a cross-section of what this looks like. You just put rock in. When you get near the intertidal zone, you put a sediment tube in there, and then further rock, and you can plant in that. And so we put plants in. You can even put mangroves in, and these mangroves are 7 feet tall. They're being trimmed at this height. They're not causing a view shed issue. We all want to keep our view shed if you're going to be on the water. So it really provides some ecosystem services that I think are very beneficial. And so how does that pertain to here? If you're in really tight areas, you can even put things in front, bolt right onto your seawall that provide some interstitial spaces for critters to live. And this is what they look like. Again, this is still better than the flat wall, because every flat wall energy goes straight down and up, and wherever goes down is undercutting that seawall and resuspending sediments, making the water dirty. So this helps take care of that energy. And so we partnered, as Camden mentioned, with you guys, the Tampa Bay Estuary Program, and us to come up with 3 designs. So there's 3 houses that are next to each other. Each one has a slightly different situation. So we got engineering designs at $50,000 to get them designed and permitted. And what's so unique about this, the designs we have will be literally given out to all the residents that have waterfront property. And with maybe tweaking where their dock is compared to what we show on our drawing, it'll be a very inexpensive way to move forward. And we designed these specifically so you only need 1 permit instead of 4. Usually these take 4 permits, and it can take 6 months. No one wants to wait that long. So we can get these done in a quicker way, and it's very progressive that the city is doing this. Like we mentioned, we had a $39,000 grant. You guys helped with that, and now we have design drawings. In the existing conditions, in no way can you see this, but when I hand out the plans here in the next week or 2 when we're finalized, we can provide those to you. But there are 3 homes right here on Maritana Drive, and those are the ones that are getting these designs. And again, no one can read this, but what it is you're going to have a vertical wall there, and as it comes up to the top, we put in features like rock and sediment, so you can plant near the top, and the waves will go over the top of that wall, but it'll be stopped at that area. And so that's when you have the ecosystem services. These are just some kind of renderings what they could look like. Again, we can provide all this to you, but on the bottom you can see the seawall is in there. It's 12 inches further out than the existing seawall. And then as we slope up, we get to the critical elevation of 5. Most of these seawalls are sitting at 3.8 or highest 4. If we don't get them up to 5, then just king tides will come into the streets, and you guys already have that, I don't have to tell you that. But if we can get that continuously around, all around the edges, we will have then a barrier that'll take us to 2016 as far as the projections of sea level rise. These are not gonna help you for Hurricane Helene, okay? This will help you for everyday high tides, small storms, and so it really is something that'll be a benefit from all the flooding that happens in your infrastructure right now. And so we are done with the designs except for the final tweaks, which we'll have here in the next week. Like I said, the permits have been issued, and this permitting guide we're going to hand out to the city to provide to the residents. It shows you step by step if they want to permit it themselves or get a consultant. It'd be pretty inexpensive to pull the permits because the designs are done. And the last thing is we want to get you connected with good contractors that'll understand they will come in here and work in this area and not want, because some of the contractors we talked to were saying, oh, we're not going to use these designs, we'll use our own engineer. No, we have these designed and permitted. We want to use this particular design. So we have a list of contractors that we've had good experience with. So I want to provide that to you guys for the residents. And I will stop there and try to answer any questions you might have.
Commissioner Causey.
Thank you. That was great. I appreciate this. And I had a couple of questions. One of them, I wanted to see what you would say relative to insects. When you're adding plants to your yard, some people have voiced a concern that it might cause additional insects. So I just wanted to have some insight on that.
And you're saying insects, like mosquitoes and...
Exactly. Maybe no-see-ums, or is there any association with plants that we should be concerned about?
I think you will if you had an area, some quiescent water somewhere in the back cove where there's not a lot of wind and stuff, you could maybe see an increase in insects. But what I think where this is, we're close to the Gulf like this, there's enough wind here, and what our tiny veneer of plants growing there is not going to be like a big mangrove forest that could bring a lot of insects in. I've not seen that as being an issue. But especially in this location, I don't think it would be.
Okay, thank you. And then one other question, if you could bring up page 10 on your presentation. I had a question of what I was looking at on that one.
You just have to tell me what.
That's 17. Just
Right
keep going backwards and you'll get 7 more slides back. You'll be there.
Oh, okay, sorry. Am I going in the right direction?
That's 13. There it is, right there.
Okay.
So I was just trying to understand how this design would fit into the area that we're looking at. I see where you have the existing grade as the dotted line there, and it looks like a very shallow slope.
Right, and Al, this is not for your location.
Right.
This was just
An example.
This was an example for the pictures I was showing you. So this was on the Hillsborough River. It's shallower. There's no resources. You guys have resources right off your seawall in some cases because there's coral, surprisingly. When I dove this area, I was surprised to see coral there. And in some places, seagrass. So when you have those natural resources, we don't want to impact those, right? Because permitting is a nightmare. So your situation is it's deeper water. And we wouldn't have a design like that. It's going to be a flat wall in the water. As you come up is where we put that living veneer of
So there's a flat wall that basically is your retainer that keeps things from working its way down into the canal.
Correct.
Okay. All right, that answers my questions.
Okay,
I think it's great. Thank you.
sure.
You good, sir?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you. Commissioner Robinson?
Very excited to see the 3 designs. I think this is great. I remember growing up in Treasure Island when we had the mangroves, and it was a short canal, but had the mangroves and had all the red hermit crabs
Oh, yeah.
all over the place. And as a child, I'd run and scurry, and they'd scurry off. So it was really exciting. So there will be hopefully some of that back. So that's
think
great.
so.
I had a question in regards to the project itself. Is this something we can share with other communities as well?
If they have the same conditions, right? I counted at least 70 houses that have the exact same depth, same conditions, so these plans are easy to transfer. But it could be somewhere else that has the same conditions, right?
Right.
And so it can go beyond this. It's very progressive of the city to be doing this. I've never had an opportunity to not only come up with designs like this, but to hand that out to all the residents. It really makes it easy for them if they want to go that route.
Absolutely. And, you know, I'm looking at the big picture. It's great if it's something we can share with other communities that are in the same situation, because we
Yes.
definitely do have some old seawalls and some tight issues, to say the least. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, I do have a few more questions for you, sir. Number one, thank you. Appreciate this. This is actually really, really helpful. Not all of our properties, not all of our waterfront have a seawall. I know some have just actually natural mangroves and things like that. And so I know you mentioned a 5-foot design theoretically, so I'm guessing you're imagining at least a wall 5 foot above the natural water line. I'm sure there's a phrase for it. But if I don't have a seawall, if we've got just sloping land with some mangroves, which some of our properties do, how do we solve that? Because you build a 5-foot wall up and around neighbors that actually have walls, and then you get somebody that's got just mangrove, and what I call that is a funnel. You just kind of took all that water and ran it down the lowest point. And so I'm trying to figure out what those without the seawall that are in these same environments should be doing. What's your recommendation for those?
That's a great question, Scott, because one of the 3 houses has that situation.
Oh, okay.
They have mangroves growing over the original seawall, you know, so it is a living shoreline. So how do we achieve the 5 for them? So what we do in that case, we're putting in a seat wall, as it's called, that's about 16 inches sticking out of the ground. You could go sit on it, right? And that ties to the seawalls on either side at elevation 5. So that seat wall gets that elevation 5 without having to mess with that kind of living shoreline they already have. Leave the mangroves alone, goes behind it, and you can step right over it, you can sit on it, and that way, if you do have real high water, that wall will keep it from coming into the streets.
So it's essentially a lower wall behind the mangroves.
Correct.
That ultimately
Achieves
gets
that
us to 5 feet
elevation.
in total in that sense.
Yes, it definitely works that way. And so there's not many of them, but that's I'm glad we had that one of the 3 properties happen to have that, because that way it addresses that kind of
I
situation.
think you had I'd love to go back to that overhead picture and just, maybe I didn't pay attention to it, so I just want to see it real quick. Which one had it?
It's the slide with the colors on it.
It's got the little boat on the right.
Sorry. Yeah, I think he's going to find it for us. Thank you.
There.
There it is.
See this one right here?
Yeah, I guess I'm looking at the right picture and I see,
Yeah, just for the left one, that was just depicting that when we did this work for Broward County, on that insert A, they show the seat wall on the outside or the inside of the palm trees. But on the left side, you can see this house at the one property. It has mangroves, so we're just putting the seat wall. Again, it's only about 16 inches out of the ground, and then it ties to the property to the north, to their wall.
to the adjacent
It
walls on
comes
either
in
side of the
right
property.
in that way.
Okay, and the seat wall, I'm guessing it's the black structure that I'm seeing in this left side here. Is it usually, I mean, it doesn't look very thick, and I'm trying to figure out is it concrete? Is it a concrete barrier, or is it,
It can be done with multiple materials. We're proposing concrete here.
okay?
This one, it's pretty narrow, I mean, width-wise, because it's not holding much back. Every once in a while, water would be against it, but it's not so high that it needs to be. But you can see they put it in the ground pretty heavily so that it can handle the water when it's all the way up to the top of it even,
Sure.
so.
Okay, thank you. That's very good. And can you tell me, it sounds like you've been doing this quite a while, just based on your expertise. Can you suggest, I mean, beyond these 3 that are proposed, I assume hopefully they'll go forward with it and see where we go, but do you have other communities? I know you mentioned the Hillsborough River, or something similar to St. Pete Beach is what I'm looking for. Have we successfully done this in a community similar to St. Pete Beach with similar, I guess, elevation changes down to the water? Do you have a sample project we can look at another community and say, look, this is how well it's done in community X?
Well, we've done this with 3 residents on the Hillsborough River. Again, it's not the same here. You guys have, but same situation. All three of them, we designed for them, and they're putting them in the ground now. So it was, again, banding some folks together. We tried to get 4 or 5 people together, but 3 did, and then when they saw the results and each neighbor wanted to get in, I'm like, well, you missed the boat, but we can help them. But, so we've done that. That's about a year out ahead of you guys, but we did not set up the designs to hand out to folks because they have so much variation there. It's not as easy. Here, it's pretty standard in general. We have that one mangrove, but most of them are just a straight seawall, and so the 2 designs we have will work for most of the people here.
Yeah. And I'm just thinking there's such a variety of different heights and things. So is there information for residents that might want to follow up with questions? How do they contact either your group, or can they contact your group? And if so, how, for follow-up questions to maybe learn about their specific implementations at their property?
Yeah, and that'll be all part of the information in the guide, homeowner's guide for permitting these. Our contacts in there, all the regulatory agency contacts are in there if they want to talk to those folks. So yeah, we'll be glad to help wherever we can. We really want to promote this type stuff because I think it has multiple benefits, not only for the residents, but also for the ecosystem and water quality for this area.
Yes, sir. Okay. Thank you. I think that was my questions. I was looking around to make sure there aren't any others.
I have another one, follow-up. You mentioned 70 homes would be applicable to this, correct?
At least, and that's
At
just that's just in the Don Cesar neighborhood. Now, across the canal,
Okay.
they could use it too. I didn't look at that side. We were just trying to focus in here, but they have very similar conditions as you do right across the water.
Is there anything that doesn't lend itself to this?
You know, I really didn't do an assessment of all the properties, but I think even if it doesn't fit perfectly, having these designs, they can be tweaked way easier than starting from scratch.
Yeah.
And so hopefully that it makes it easier for the residents.
Okay, thank you.
Sure.
Okay. Thank you, Commissioner Causey.
Yeah, I had one other. Could you expound what the 4 permits that would normally be required, which agencies are those?
Well, if you were just trying to put in something not like we designed, which is 12 inches out instead of 18 inches out, what the state allows, as soon as you go those extra 6 inches, then now you're tripping into Pinellas County's permits. Okay, so their permit for that, and we didn't want to wait for their permit, so we just designed it 6 inches closer, right? And so it's Pinellas County, you got the state, whether it's SwiftMud, most of these will be DEP because they're single-family homes, and then you got the Army Corps of Engineers. Those are the 3 primary ones that will get involved. I don't think you'll have the 4th one here, but those 3 you'll have to get. But the way we designed it, DEP can issue their permit, and even though the regulations were taken away that they can issue for the Corps, since it's only 12 inches out, they still have their provision to give the permit. So when we got that DEP permit, it said, you have the Corps' permission to go forward. So I was surprised by that, but that really made it easy. Not knowing they were going to give it to us, we applied for the Corps, and we got the Corps permit as well. But the way this is set up is 1 permit, and it didn't take more than 60 days to get that. And I know that's 60 days, but I do this for a living, and we're lucky to get these permits in 6 months.
So is that the city permit?
It would be the city permit, because you guys do have authorities over that. And so I think the city has waived the fees for these type projects, but I'm not sure if that's the case. But I think you guys have been trying to make it a little easier too.
Thanks, sir. Appreciate your time this afternoon.
Sure. Thank you.
Thank you. That was nice. We have a second presentation on Gulf Boulevard undergrounding project status and direction.
Good evening, Camden Mills, Public Services Director. I appreciate the opportunity this evening to give an update on the current status of our Gulf Boulevard utility undergrounding project, and we also seek your direction on next steps moving forward. While we're loading this here. So the Gulf Boulevard project, the main focus here is to underground the electrical power, streetlights, and the communication facilities. This project was incepted several years ago. All the way back in 2020 is when we really established like a long-range budget for this project. And it's currently split into 3 different phases. Phase 1 is from 75th Avenue to 55th Avenue, and then Phase 2A is from 55th to 45th, and then Phase 2B is from 45th Avenue to 35th. So the entire stretch of the project that we're looking at here for this project is from 75th Avenue down to 35th Avenue. Phase 1 of this project, as I mentioned, 55th to 75th. The city has completed our construction for the underground conduit work that we were going to do as part of this. The next step in the project is for Spectrum Communications to remove their facilities from Duke's poles, and then following that, Duke would come in behind them and remove the poles that are no longer in use. The latest update that we received from Spectrum last week is that they anticipate splicing their fiber starting on the 27th of this week through the 29th, and then they'll need about 2 more weeks to finish removing all of their facilities from Duke's poles. And then at that time, Duke would be able to take down the remainders of the poles that are mostly on the west side of Gulf Boulevard down that stretch. So our plan here is to have the facilities relocated and Duke's poles removed and underground this summer. Next, we move into Phase 2, and that's the main topic here tonight that we'd like to seek your direction on. So as I mentioned, we split Phase 2 into Phase 2A and 2B based on the long-range plan and budgeting. The engineering design for this has been completed. As we mentioned on our last capital projects update, we were working through some hurdles with FDOT on securing the permitting from them to do that work within Gulf Boulevard. Since then, we've had some productive conversations with them, worked through our comments, and we believe we've received some verbal approval, so we resubmitted that, and we anticipate receiving the final approval in hand here so we can have those permits in place. Another complexity that we're still working through in this project that's important to consider is easement coordination. To be able to put these facilities on the private properties, we do have to get easements throughout the corridor, so I'll explain some more information on that here in the coming slides. And then finally, the next step for this Phase 2 would be to advertise a request for proposal for construction services. Right now, we're working with our long-range budget estimates, so this would allow us to see exactly what those construction numbers look like today in 2026 for this next phase, and then we could evaluate decisions from there if we choose. So next I wanted to get into some of the complexities for some of those easements that we're trying to secure for these facilities. So Phase 2A, this is the section from 45th Avenue to 55th Avenue. So far we have about 15 easements that are executed and fully recorded. But we're still working through securing about 13 easements. And it's important to note about 4 of those properties are of concern where we aren't working towards a path of approval. We have 2 parcels owned by the Plaza Beach Motel, 3 parcels in Dolphin Village, and then 2 parcels associated with the Serrata development. So our consultant who is helping us with this easement coordination, their next recommendation is for the city to meet with these folks individually and see what the next steps are on trying to secure those easements. And then in Phase 2, we have similar complexities there. Right now we have about 14 easements that have been executed and recorded, and then 12 that still require an easement to be recorded. Out of those 12, about 4 of those are tracking towards approval, but we have another 8 properties that we need to reach out to and have some continued coordination with to try to get those easements secured. Next, I'd like to highlight the grant agreement that we have that's helped supported this project over the past few years, and that's through Pinellas County's interlocal agreement for the Gulf Boulevard Improvement Program. This was a beautification project for the Barrier Island beaches to do the same type of thing that we're doing here, undergrounding our street lights and communication equipment. The grant agreement allotment for the city of St. Pete Beach was about $8 million total that would be available to us through reimbursement after the construction was completed and invoices were approved. In total, we've billed about $4.1 million against that grant to date. And so there's about $3.9 million that's still available in that Penny for Pinellas interlocal grant that would be available to us for reimbursement. It is important to note that this agreement is set to expire at the end of this fiscal year, September 30th, 2026. So we are coming up to a timeline there. We have submitted a reimbursement request for about $237,000 in March of this year. That's to cover some of the efforts that were done in 2025 for this project. And we have also requested an agreement extension from Pinellas County to try to get that September 30th deadline moved further. But based on the conversations we've had to date, we have not received any indication that an extension would be awarded. And then next, I'd like to highlight where we stand right now on the project budget for Phase 2A. Back in about September of 2024, we did a pretty detailed analysis on the project budget, showing where the funds were based on what was originally estimated in 2020, and then kind of where we stood at 2024. Right now, since we haven't put this project out to bid yet, we're still working with a lot of those same estimate numbers. So what you see here, the estimated cost remaining for this Phase 2A portion from 45th Avenue to 55th is about $8.1 million. The sub-bullets underneath that show what the different costs associated with that would be. So the communication relocations from Spectrum, electrical relocations and streetlights with Duke. The construction services contract, that's marked as to be determined. So right now, that's the number that is estimated at $3.9 million, but would need to be confirmed with actual competitive bids. And then the construction inspection services with our engineer of record, Kimley Horn, that cost is about $210,000. So as it stands in the city's capital improvement plan, we have about $1.4 million in our 2026 CIP remaining. As I mentioned previously, we have about $3.9 million that's available from Penny for Pinellas reimbursement through that grant. So that shows about $2.8 million of additional city funding that would be needed to move this project forward. So on top of the 1.4, what's currently budgeted, we'd be looking for an additional $6.7 million, 3.9 of which is reimbursable. So tonight, we would like to seek your direction on whether or not we should continue with this project or not. So we outlined a couple options here to consider, but certainly open to other options as well. So option A that's outlined here is continue to proceed with the procurement, see what those construction hard bid numbers come at, and then we can evaluate what our decision needs to be from there. One thing to note is, this would be a further investment of staff's time into this project to continue with the easement coordination and to continue with that procurement phase. Another option to consider would be just not to proceed at all. Consider reallocating that $1.4 million that is currently budgeted in the city's capital improvement plan that's funded from our general fund, and then forfeit the remaining $3.9 million grant funding that is available for reimbursement. One point to consider, the sunk cost right now into Phase 2 that the city has considered is about $718,000. So with that, I will open it up to any comments or questions.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Hey, good evening, Director Camden Mills. Can you speak to vulnerabilities from storm surge and saltwater intrusion / corrosion from endpoints and things like that?
Sure. I'm certainly not, an electrical engineer, but from my knowledge and what I understand of this type of project is, your facilities either are overhead or they're underground. If you're overhead, you're susceptible to wind. If you're underground, you're susceptible to flooding and saltwater corrosion. A lot of this infrastructure is flood resistant. but it's not 100% flood-proofed. So I think that is still a vulnerability, considering a coastal island like this, that if you were to get storm surge flooding, we could expect some damage to that underground facilities. I would defer that to either, Duke Energy and their data points on these type of projects, or a more structural or electrical engineer.
Very good, thank you.
Commissioner Causey.
Yeah, so I thought there was a match, funding match that was required for this that would not be reimbursable. So it looks to me like we were saying our total cost would be 1.4, and then the rest would be provided. Can you?
In addition to the 1.4, the city would also need about 2.8.
Okay, so it is about 4 million that would be coming out of our funds, and then there would be, that's not reimbursable. Is that?
That's correct.
Oh, okay, all right. Okay. Then another question I had relative to the easements, can you explain how the timeline would be relative to an extension or not getting an extension? Do we have to have the easements taken care of before the deadline as it stands right now, or?
As it stands right now, all reimbursement requests would need to be submitted, by that deadline. So easements would need to be recorded, work getting started. As it stands on this slide here, where I estimate the $8.1 million, and I list the different sub-bullets below that. The Spectrum and the Duke Energy bills, those could be paid right away without starting construction. So I would anticipate if we put this project out to bid, the numbers were favorable, and we wanted to move forward with it, we would pay these Duke and Spectrum bills first to draw down the rest of that penny money, seek our reimbursement, and then the rest of the project would be up to the city.
Okay, yeah, that's good. And then now these numbers are all based on 2024 estimates, right?
The first three, the 121 to 3.6 million and the 261,000, those are all hard numbers, as well as that 209,000. The one that's still to be determined is that $3.9 million construction cost. That could most likely increase, being that this was an older estimate.
Now, I don't know if you would send us the email today that showed the cost overruns exactly in the first phase. And I noticed that the big overrun was actually the undergrounding part of it. So that's where it was the couple of million extra, and we ended up with a 6 million shortfall.
I think it was a combination of a lot of things. Material shortages, kind of cost overruns there, timing-wise, added to some cost overruns. And I think, the initial budget, may not have been very tight to begin with.
Yeah, I feel like since we're looking at 2024 number on that undergrounding part of this, it's bound to be more expensive now, and then I'm not sure how much more overrun will be involved with this one, just with the extra complications of doing it in our barrier island sandy soil, and water levels are really high.
Understood.
So, but what is your take on that? Do you feel like we would be looking at an overrun on this more than likely from where?
I think more than
these
likely
numbers?
it would be higher than this 3.9 number, but I'd want to put that out to bid to see exactly.
Oh, okay, yeah. And how long when would we have numbers from the bids?
Usually we put those on the streets for about 30 days. So it's about 90 days, kind of from start to finish until we solicit it, close it, evaluate it, and see what those numbers are. So our goal would be, we're on a tight timeline, so if we could get this out to bid in June, then we'd be making decisions in October or August, September.
Well, I feel like the hurricane slowed us down on this whole process. Is that true, or?
Yes, yeah. Well, as we were working through recovery, a lot of our CIP kind of just was put on hold until that updated budget cycle was approved.
Okay, well then I guess I may have a couple more questions here in a second.
Commissioner Robinson.
This project's been 6 years in the making, right?
At least
2020, you've come at the tail end of it, because it started a long time ago, or 2020, 6 years ago. And it kind of followed on the heels of in my beach right, Indian Rocks? Or was it Reddington?
I'm not sure.
It was one of the beaches, and we were going to piggyback with their original construction company to do this. And that's when we got our cut of the monies from Pennies for Pinellas, just like they did. And we were going to, it was at that point, fully funded. And it's gone from a fully funded project to now a city-funded project, for the most part, to complete it to where it's, to get the whole project done. I had a question on the status of the the roadway is for the easements. I know that there was some, we had a conversation a while back about being able to put the undergrounding under the roadway versus there was, I guess, some push to put it underneath our sidewalks for the easements, correct? Was that push still there?
The main concern about whether going within the roadway or under the sidewalks, that was the permitting issue that we were running into with FDOT. The easement issue is more for the equipment, like the pedestals and the transformers and things like that.
When I travel through other towns, I do see that their pedestals and their transformers are raised, yet I see from the undergrounding that they've done so far, their pedestals are not raised,
All right. Okay.
which is very discouraging from that standpoint, especially from a resiliency, from a fire hazard, from everything else. As we've said, it's not waterproof. And the one thing I think we've learned with Milton and Helene is proof is better than resistant. So I've got big concerns on that, whether that's the way to go. I mean, the hardening isn't pretty. We can just take a look down the street over here and see all the hardened poles on Bogasaga Drive here from City Hall down to 71st, and you'll see them all, or look down 73rd, and you can see all the hardening poles. So it was kind of done as more of a beautification project in general.
Understood.
So I hate to see it go, but I hate to spend this money that we don't really have. And definitely that last end of it, it looks like there's just more money to be spent, and that project's going to, as well, from a construction cost standpoint, it's going to go up as well.
Yes, currently there is no funding plan in place for that last 10 blocks.
So we're looking at 10 blocks now, basically, 45th to 55th, 10 blocks, and then another 10 blocks, so 20 blocks.
Correct.
Let's see, I did write down another one. Excuse me, it's timed out for me. I think you already answered that one, how much we'd spent to date, accuracy of that. That's all I have, thank you. I know you took over this project that you didn't start, so I appreciate your work on it.
Commissioner Marriott.
Sure, thanks, Camden. Just a couple quick questions for you. Commissioner Robinson mentioned seeing some of the transformer boxes and things in other communities where things have been undergrounded, being elevated. Is that by Duke's choice? Is that by the design when the project was started?
I'm not sure, but I could do a little bit digging and get some clarification on who kind of dictated that.
Who dictates that? And then my next question is kind of along those same lines, and so the I don't know answer is completely acceptable. Does Duke have an opinion themselves about undergrounding on the barrier islands, or do they have changing views on that, or do they express an opinion at all about that, or is that purely just a barrier island community goes, well, gosh, it would be a lot prettier if we undergrounded, and Duke goes, well, if you want to, we'll, if you want to do it and you want to pay for it, we'll do whatever you want.
Again, that'd be something I'd like to follow up and get some formal reply on.
And then my last question is that if on the, once the infrastructure is in place, undergrounded, the section that we have from 55th to 75th, if that infrastructure does get damaged by flooding, is then Duke responsible for the maintenance and the replacement of that infrastructure if that happens, or is that?
Thinking would be yes, it would be on Duke's responsibility, especially if the conduit itself was not damaged and it was just replacing the lines within that conduit. But that's another point I can follow up with them to confirm.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Causey.
Director Mills, I spent some time thinking about this today, and so I put together, the commissioners have a copy. I don't have a copy for you, but it was just some research that I did today, and I was looking at Duke's storm protection plan that they filed with the Florida Public Service Commission, and where they basically say that undergrounding is not always practical on barrier islands. And they say the sandy soils and the susceptibility to flooding make undergrounding less effective and more expensive in these locations. So it kind of, and then just like what you were saying, I want to sort of reemphasize that a little bit. In some places, undergrounding might make perfect sense if there's not a chance of getting, or I should say a very large chance of your utilities being covered by salt water or other kind of flooding. And there are a lot of locations, even in Florida, that fall into that category, and where you could see where wind would be a bigger threat. And flooding might not be a threat at all. And a lot of places have trees, like Gainesville, Tallahassee, et cetera. So that would be the perfect place to underground. Whereas here, if you underground, we're actually lowering our critical infrastructure. And whereas I have to raise my air conditioning condenser up to my roof level, we're going to take the transformers, which are getting to be hard to find these days, off the pole where they're up in the air and lower them. So if you did have a high wind event here, there's a good chance that there would be very high water associated with it too. So I'm just trying to think out loud here. And to me, I'm not sure, I wouldn't rather spend $4 million on a neighborhood street. And so that brings up the question is, if we didn't do this undergrounding, is there any other, where would this money, could it be used in other places for capital?
The 3.9 million for Penny Pinellas for that interlocal, that couldn't be used for other projects, but the city's money, that 1.4 million that's currently budgeted out of our general fund into that capital fund, that could certainly be reallocated to another project. Right now in our proposed fiscal year 27 budget, there's also more general fund money shown for this project, so that could be reallocated to another project as well.
Okay, thank you.
Director Mills, thank you. Number one, I appreciate this. This is something I've heard about over the years, and in my short tenure as mayor, we're faced with this kind of decision. I know it's a lot of work. I know you inherited it, as Commissioner Robinson said. So, thank you for your research on it. If you'll go back, please, one slide to slide 7. And so, if I'm looking at that, we have 1.4 million budgeted right now. Correct? That's what I'm saying in front of me. And even with the grant of 3.8 from the Pinellas County, we would still need 2.8 additional beyond what we have. Am I reading that right?
That's correct.
So we're short 2.8 million just to finish Phase 2A, which is an $8.1 million project. And I'm going to turn and ask you what Phase 2B is, which is another 10 blocks. So unless there's something structurally different about the avenues between 35th and 45th and 45th and 55th, I would imagine you'd tell me it's another $8.1 million to finish the last 10 blocks.
It's going to likely be around in that range. I think the previous estimates were about 6.7 million for that last phase, so I would expect upwards of that.
Okay. And you mentioned this is fiscal year 2026 budget remaining. How much budget is remaining for this project through all remaining years?
That's it. That's the only money that's currently budgeted with city's funds right now is this 1.4.
Okay, I thought you just a moment ago mentioned that there were some future funds that we wouldn't have to.
We're proposing in the next year's budget, but that's not adopted and actually budgeted.
Okay. A few more. I'm gonna bounce around, so I apologize. I'm talking money now, but now I'm going to go into easements. I noticed some of your easements were kind of in the process, and some were overtly denied. very specific. You can stop right there, go down one more, right where you were, back up, right here. Overtly denied, the pink one, right? And so, overtly denied, can we proceed without that easement?
In this location, the design was adjusted to remain overhead.
So, we'll end up even with our plan, so I'm walking you through this, and I'm sorry, I'm trying to mentally walk myself through it. 2.8 million left on finishing from 55th to 45th, another 8-ish million to get down to finish it all, theoretically. And so we're talking $10 million to get it done, and we'll still end up with an overhead pole line sitting right here.
Correct. Yep, and that
Lines go down, come back up a pole, go across this, come back down, go through. Is that right?
Correct. And then you would seek to have that property owner underground themselves when they redevelop that property.
Okay. Ditto on the at-risks.
The at-risks have not been redesigned to accommodate for denial. So those ones in red on this slide, those are the only ones where the design has been adjusted to accommodate for. The other ones that are shown still in pink, green, or yellow, those easements would be needed, or a redesign would be needed.
Okay, will you go back one more slide for me, please? Just, I'm sorry, I could probably do it on my thing. There's a lot of pink and green and pink and yellow there, right? Theoretically, I guess on the good news, if these didn't come to fruition, we would stay overhead and save some costs. Am I right?
Yes.
Okay. But again, I think you've kind of touched it with Commissioner Maldonado's question. What does it feel like to be a hybrid property or a hybrid city where some of your stuff is up and some of it's down? And did we really do anything beneficial here, or is it like a chain, your weakest link, or what are we doing here? I'm trying to figure out your assessment of it as a engineering
My
director.
assessment, this is mainly a beautification type project. You do have some resiliency in undergrounding, but you're more susceptible to flood damage than you were if you were overhead. So you're removing the wind danger, and you could have potential more flood.
And to Commissioner Marriott's question, whether the electrical line or whether the utility is, I'll just go Duke Electrical, but I assume it's Spectrum, it's all of them, right? Whether that line is above ground or underground, if it fails, it's usually that utility provider that it's their cost to fix it in these situations, right?
Yes, typically.
So there's not really a cost benefit ongoing of the city to do this. It's truly beautification is what I'm hearing. It's like we might get a little resiliency out of it if it's a wind event, and we'll lose some resiliency if it's a water event. And for us, we get just a prettier street for what I'm hearing now is about $10 million extra to finish this up. Okay. I'll ask just a few more questions, please. And please don't take my questions. I pepper you a lot, but I don't mean it in a bad way. I'm just trying to get my head wrapped around it. This is what I do. I know that FDOT is looking to redo a lot of the work on, which is essentially this corridor. This entire corridor is FDOT owned, and they're looking to resurface. I saw some work that they're doing potentially on the sidewalks. I don't know if we're in the same kind of easement area. You know, are they going to do some work that's going to solve our problems in some way, shape, or form to make our project easier? If we tie in with them while they're doing all their work to repair the streets and the sidewalks and whatever else they might be doing, hopefully some of the easements along the medians. Is there something that we can tie into that might mitigate our costs in the undergrounding piece?
That's something we can reach out to FDOT about. From my understanding, and the project that's coming in the near term right now is pretty minor scope, just to repair some storm damages. So it'll be like curb, sidewalk repairs, maybe some asphalt type repairs, but not a like full-blown roadway resurfacing type project. So I think the project that's coming in the near term with FDOT is going to be more limited in scope. So I don't think they would have like underground boring as part of their scope. That's something we can reach out to and see if they would be interested in that, though.
Okay. And then the last thing that I'm kind of struck with, and I'm sorry, I'm just kind of absorbing some of what I heard earlier. We go through all this trouble to underground our utilities, and then Duke sets them on a pedestal that's at ground level, And as Commissioner Robinson alluded to, and we're right back in the same issue, right? I think the reason we would do this is that the next big flood event, we don't have major outages across the city like we experienced, during Helene and Milton. But if Duke doesn't either elevate their pieces, or I assume they wouldn't underground them and harden them that way, then we're just at the mercy of Duke's pedestals and their I don't know if they're generators or whatever ties all this together from Duke's perspective, that is sitting above ground at ground level. That's our weak point, assuming we underground everything. Is that a fair assessment?
Yes, that's a fair assessment.
Okay, and we can't force them to elevate or do anything else. We just, or can we? I think you said you'd ask.
We could ask. I haven't had those conversations with Duke personally as far as scope.
Okay. All right. I think that's it for me. Commissioner Marriott, please.
Sure, thank you. So I think after, because I think you guys are looking for direction from us, right? Not just questions. And so after listening to all of this, I think my feelings are that this project, as we've said, started off as a beautification project. And I think that has validity, right? Like, you drive down a street that has undergrounded utilities, it does look much less visually cluttered and has some advantages. And so on the pro side of things, a beautification project is always nice. It makes it look nicer. We have the opportunity to do it at a bit of a discount because we have the grant money that we can use, so I would look at that as, if we were ever going to do it, we'd want to do it now when we can do it at a bit of a discount. The other way of looking at it, which I'm leaning more towards, is that, the phase 2B is probably never going to happen, realistically. And so how much drama and expense do we want to go through for phase 2A, where we don't have guaranteed easements, we don't have people who are eager to grant us easements, or they already would have. And is it a good use of taxpayer dollars for both the city funds and the grant money? Because let's be honest, the money that comes from Penny from Pinellas is still taxpayer dollars, right? So is it a good use of those dollars? And though part of me really strongly feels like, gosh, if you can do a project, even if it's just a beautification project at a discount by using grant money, you should probably do it. I feel like there's enough complications with this one that I'm not certain it's the, after hearing everyone's comments, I'm leaning more towards thinking that it's probably not the best thing to do. So at right now, if you had to ask me what's my direction, maybe I would say go ahead and put out an RFP and let's see what the actual construction costs are, but I would be leaning towards that this probably isn't going to happen.
Commissioner Robinson. Oh, sorry. Commissioner Causey.
Okay, I'm up. So the neighborhoods in general are all not undergrounded. So those are all subject to high wind, loss of power, and there's where most of the trees are as well. And then if we do have the flood, now we'll be losing equipment that's on the ground level that we've lowered. So it's like no matter which one happens, we're going to get it. So I just don't see the benefit of this, and that's just amplified by there seems to be desperate need for the money in other areas right now.
A big chunk of 75th North is undergrounded in the neighborhood. Not that is specifically relevant, but
No, that is.
but a big chunk of that
I didn't
neighborhood is
realize that.
undergrounded. Yeah.
Yeah, so, please go ahead.
Well, no, I've had feedback that people would obviously like to have their utilities undergrounded in neighborhoods. And once again, I'm not sure that's the best idea on a barrier island, but that's debatable. But in this case, I feel like the money needs to be put somewhere else.
Mr. Maldonado.
Yeah, so I'm not a fan of use it or lose it, but I will say that just based on the conversations at this point, I'd like to reallocate the 1.4 million towards something else in the budget for the things that we discussed, just the cost versus benefit and the risk analysis. I think that it may not do us the service that we think it would, so thank you.
Mr. Robinson?
Are there any costs for the completion of Phase 1 that we still will have?
No.
Okay, just want to make sure on that. Just as I stated before, because this was a fully funded $15 million beautification project that has turned into now at least a 10-plus million that it's going to cost us. So I can't see going forward with this at our current situation that the city's in, where we need money in other areas to that I think would take a priority. And I'm concerned as well as to the resiliency of the undergrounding aspect. And with that being said, I did not call, and I don't know if anybody else has called to check. I just looked on my phone. It was Indian Rocks that we were piggybacking with to see how they went and how they did with how their undergrounding went with their storm. But I do know that it was a different construction company that did their undergrounding versus us going with Duke, because that changed, and that was a contributing factor to that 15 million not being fully funded anymore. I think 4 years ago it was only $6 million in 2024. 2 years ago it was only $6 million that we were short on this project. Now we're looking at 10 plus, because even with the 10, we're not taking into account the increases in the construction costs on both phase 2A and 2B. So I would say from a beautification standpoint, maybe we can try something else. I don't think it's going to be, I just don't think it's a good use of our tax-paying money in the situation that we're currently in, because we are still not in blue skies financially.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I got to tell you, I've heard very passionate feedback from some residents on both sides. Some that say it's got to happen. We started it. It's got to finish, right? And other residents, I think we got an email. At least I certainly got an email in the last day or two, suggesting that the dangers of undergrounding and how they lead to fires in some instances and things like that. So I know there's passion on both sides. I think for me, it's just my nature. I hate to give away $4 million and say, no, we don't need it, no thank you. And so now I'm asking, for me, I think ideally, if we could find a good use for it. I realize we can't use the $3.869 million to be clear. We can't use that anywhere else but undergrounding. Is that, I think I just want to make sure I hear that right.
That's correct.
All right, so if we don't do this, we lose 3.869. I certainly don't, out of what is still a $10+ million kind of left of work to do to really get us underground, and we'll still end up with some stuff overground no matter what. We're in a hybrid situation no matter what, I think. Is there anything, if we pulled the fiscal year 2026 budget, the 1.4 million, we pulled it out and said, look, we don't want you to spend that, but you still got the grant for the 4 million. Is there something, some bows you can wrap up, to Commissioner Robinson's perspective, some work you can do that might advance us a little bit without just giving the money back? Or is there a conversation, maybe city manager, to be had with the county that says, look, we've got until September to use it, but we'd love to use it in other ways. Can we please reallocate it somewhere? Because we don't think it's the best spend of our money, but I just, we've got $4 million sitting in our coffers, and I hate to give it back if we can find a good use for it, either engineering-wise and something that provides more tangible value. So I would love to see us potentially pull our portion of the budget, unless it's mandated for part of the match, and then see if there's another alternative that we might be able to request. Is there some way we can reallocate this? Because I hate to, yes, it's found money for the county, but we could certainly use it in other areas. And if they would allow us, I think we'd find better uses for it than still being in a hybrid, undergrounding situation.
Understood.
So I don't know if we can investigate that as maybe a next step.
If So a couple comments. One is, we've already asked the county if we could reallocate it towards other things, and they've told us definitively no.
Did you say pretty please? I'm kidding.
I've used all my charm and
Okay.
continue to do so with the county. I'm hearing from 3 people that they don't wish to continue, so unless you have persuaded those other 3 to take away and go research this concept of using the 3.8 from the county to do some partial construction, but I'm looking at my director, is that even feasible that you would be able to construct, let's say, 2 blocks before September? I'm just throwing that out there because that's kind of what,
It certainly wouldn't be possible to construct. If you wanted to use 4, then yeah, that probably would take you down to probably 2 or 3 blocks when you're factoring in like economies of scale.
Yeah.
That would require renegotiating our agreements with Spectrum and Duke. I think that would be the longer lead time.
Understood. And we'd still have to get all these easements done or not, right? And if we don't get these easements done by September, roughly about 3 or 4 months, and I'm seeing about 13 on this page, and again, probably 12 on the next one, none of this really comes to fruition, or either that or they all go overhead. Is that right?
That's correct.
Okay. Thank you. Sarah, I don't know if this is just a recommendation. I think I did hear 3, not proceed, but I want to make sure, is this a motion we need to make, or just give you some direction? You got your direction, or?
we have our direction. Unless the city
Do you
attorney,
want to take any public comment on the issue? Are there any cards for this issue, Renee?
Yeah. All right. Well, yeah, we'll take one.
John Kurzman.
Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you, Camden.
John Kurzman, be on the way. This is an email I sent in 2024. And I unfortunately went from being like the chicken or egg breakfast, who was the chicken, I was just involved. Now I'm more like the pig, I'm very committed. Because one of the distinctions we have to make is that overhead wires, when they break, fail open. In other words, you have a blackout. You don't have power because the wire broke, the pole fell over. Underground wiring in itself is not a problem. And as I said in 2024, prior to the hurricane, I said, undergrounding is okay, but the endpoints need to be protected. So if the base stations, the transformers, were as elevated as we require our homeowners and businesses to elevate at the very other end of the same wire, I wouldn't have a problem, other than I don't think anyone really wants one of these big platforms on their lawn either. So then you get into that whole pole, cellular tower kind of discussion too. But the problem is just that, and I've worked with electricians after Sandy who've explained how if water gets into the sheath at the end of the wire, so where the lugs are, on ground level, it then gets into the coating of the wire, works its way down, creates this green, ugly paste that eventually shorts out. As people in Marco Island discovered, it actually produces gas when it does that. So if you have a sealed conduit, it builds up the gases, and then it blew out a utility room in a condo building there. And I provided the fire department study that analyzed how to avoid these things. Don't do this. If you could use the money, and it would still be an undergrounding project, but look at how to make your energy more resilient, even for the people that already are undergrounded. So I had to replace an underground line, or the Duke did, and I was running on the quote baby for like 3 months because I only had 120 volts and they had to figure out how to make it 220 again. And then my neighbor, just this last month, he lost one of his legs and had to wait until they came and replaced that. And then, of course, I wrote this in September 20th of 2024, and less than a week later, I would have wished to have been proven wrong, but that's my house. And I was told by the fire investigator it was due to the wiring, not in the house, but the power that came when the neutral shorts with the other lines. So overhead fails open, but when salt water, or especially salt water that's even highly conductive, crosses 2 wires, Now you've got a whole other weird situation going on. You've got power going into the homes, but it's not coming out the way it should. It has to go find a ground to come down. This is how you have 220-volt lines. It's a big problem. So I commend you for what you did, but I just hope maybe you could use some of the money to help make what we've got more resilient.
Can I, I'm good, thank you, sir, I appreciate you. Thank you for your feedback. Camden, can I ask you one more question? I don't know if this is out of protocol. I'd just love to ask Camden one more question, please, sir. Like, this is what's occurring to me, and I'm sorry, I should have asked this question earlier. It didn't occur to me until I just heard this discussion. You know, we got $4 million left, and we keep talking about these Duke pedestals that are still sitting at ground level. And the problem's less the underground wires or the overhead wires. It's these connections that are sitting right where the water is going to be prominent. And so is there a design that might just take the $4 million and work on those Duke pedestals and raise them up if Duke were amenable to it? I don't know if that's, I mean, we're still talking about hardening our utilities, but we're talking about taking those pedestals and raising them up where appropriate to mitigate flood risk that is already sitting in our system, whether these wires are underground or overhead. Is there anything we could do there? And I guess this is my last gasp at how could we spend the $4 million?
I think it's certainly worth asking the question. We can reach out to our contacts at Duke and see what options are available for us.
I think at this point, we're not undergrounding or overheading. We're just kind of saying, can we do something with those pedestals that seem to be the weak link, no matter what we do in these situations? And can we spend the 4 there? But in my mind, not the 1.4 that we've already budgeted. Pull that back, see if we can use the 4 in some way like that.
Understood.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah, I appreciate it.
That's good.
Okay, just for the record then, staff direction is we will discontinue work on the undergrounding of Phase 2A and further make a recommendation for the reallocation of the 1.4 million in 2026 during the 2027 budget development process, as well as the 2.8 that was previously plugged in for this project. We'll make a different recommendation for you to consider. And we will contact Duke as well as the county to see the feasibility to use the undergrounding funds to raise the current pedestals to mitigate flood risks.
I like it personally. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. Okay. City Clerk, is there any other audience comments, please?
Not on this specific.
Okay. I think we're about to go into audience comment
Yes.
topic in general, so yes. Okay, thank you.
John Kurzman.
Me to be first, but I'm glad. This is about the beach. You can zoom in a little more if you could. So I feel a little bit Groundhog Day, but of course, in 2024, we had an event that has distracted a lot of us. But in April 24, at Beach Stewardship, I said, hey, Beach Steward, and this I'm taking for myself because I'm not representing Beach Stewardship here. But I said, hey, we need to make sure that Beach Stewardship gets involved in decisions that they need to be involved with. You know, it says that we shall be involved in all sorts of things, not even may, we shall. And it's not really happening. Things happen, and so the next thing is, one of the items was beach deeds and public right to the beach. Because there had been a project that the city had, previous administration, previous everyone, to gather all the surveys. And they were going to use those surveys to figure out what rights the owners of properties had and what rights the public had. And we realized back then, surveys don't tell that story. Deeds tell that story if you're lucky. Then you even have to do more research. But surveys, they're not even in searcher vaults. They're not the official document that describes these things. And then lastly, just from back then, I was saying, hey, fees and permits for businesses in construction of the beach, how come it's $20 for all your beach chairs, but it's a per machine cost for a laundromat, it's a per pool table cost for a pool hall? I'm not so sure it's not even written that it should be per chair on these beaches, on the beach chairs. And I don't say that just to raise money for the city, but it's also because then if someone says, hey, I got to pay for each one of these, maybe they'll be a little more hesitant to cover the beach with them. So I want to thank you. Places where there used to be poles on the outside of the apparent water line, now they're 40 to 50 feet off of the apparent water line when I pace them. So that was terrific. Job well done. question I have, though, is we already had an ordinance that said you only can have a beach sign in certain scenarios in certain parts of the beach, and it even said the setbacks are 40 feet from the visible water line. So we had that ordinance. So right off the bat, when people object and go, what do you mean visible? It has to be the high water line. Well, come on, we've already had this ordinance in place, and it's based on visible. So it's not a dirty word. What concerns me, and the reason I'm up here, is because I heard that the sheriff is going to be collecting the surveys and using that in helping to determine when to trespass someone. First off, I'm shocked because I was just at the beach stewardship meeting last week, and this wasn't even mentioned as a scenario on the table, and already it's being implemented. So, or partially implemented. So it concerns me, and I think it should concern all of us because it could disrupt customary use. Because once the city starts endorsing and allowing certain things, you're changing the whole ballgame. This is like the cure is worse than the disease, because a post is a post. But if now you're saying that the meaning of a certain location is that the property owner, who's not even paying taxes on that part of the property, can now start trespassing people, that just opens up a huge can of worms. So I'll send these to you, but this is the statute also that says that you have to have the right to traverse if it was there in 1987, a whole laundry list of things. So just, I'm asking you to be careful. Thank you.
Thanks, sir.
Mayor, can we find out if that is accurate on the sheriff's using surveys?
So we have had a few property owners submit revised surveys to the county tax assessor's office to have them updated, as well as the deed rights to their property. They have personally asked for assistance from the sheriff's office in instances where they have had individuals who have not left their private property when asked. And so the sheriff has asked for us well, basically they have collected that specific information that they put in what they call a hot file. It's not a field file, they call it a hot file. And for that particular property, it has that information in the sheriff's office dispatch folders. So if there is an incident, that they can actually reference the documents to prove that it is private property, and they can assist if needed.
So this is not a beach, every property wide, this is a select few? Is that what I'm hearing? Or are they trying to do it beach-wide?
This has just been a as needed based on individual property owners. I know of 3 that have been involved specifically with the sheriff's office on particular challenges on their private beaches.
Thank you.
I'm sorry, I realize we normally don't do this, but I have a follow-up as well. I wonder if you know, we can, whether it's us or get the sheriff's office to give us, you know, we're part of a bigger beach community. There's beaches, you know, there's 7 or 8 beaches, you know, straight up to Clearwater, and, you know, so I'd love to understand where the beaches community kind of falls, you know, where other communities kind of enforce this, don't enforce this. You know, I'd hate to see St. Pete Beach be the standout one direction or the other. Like, there's got to be some consensus for what Pinellas County beaches typically, you know, behave. And I wonder if, I don't know if the sheriff's department is the best source for us to kind of understand, you know, where these kind of requests are coming, or whether this is a city reach out and find out. I'd just love to see what our neighbors are doing, right? We don't have to solve everything ourselves if we can find better practices in our neighboring communities. And I would love to see if we can just at least understand, you know, what the other communities are doing vis-a-vis this same topic.
We can certainly reach out to the sheriff's office, as well as some of the beach communities have their own private police departments. So,
yeah.
But I could reach out to the sheriff and see, based on their coverage area of the various beaches in Pinellas County, what they're doing. I know, I don't know if you know, but the sheriff is also an attorney.
I did not know that.
So he is very well versed on Florida statute and Florida state laws. He's even been advising us on some of the wording in our own sign ordinances and giving us some ideas with the city attorney when we bring back
Yeah.
for the second reading. But I certainly will reach out to him and see if he's having, he did mention today to me that he was having a similar issue in another beach northward.
Yeah.
So, and he was coming up with some solutions that might work out.
I'd love to find a common solution, essentially, not try to solve everything ourselves, is my general take on a lot of these things.
Yes.
We are an island, but we're not an island, with regards to things like this, so let's use our good neighbors. Commissioner Causey.
Yeah, I was wondering if we have an agenda for the June 3rd community meeting relative to beach use, or could we get a presentation from anyone, like at the sheriff's department, on how they handle the problems in other cities, for example, relative to, and what topics are we really planning to cover in that meeting? Because there seems like a lot of beach use issues to me, and breaking them into different parts. I understand we're going to do that, but I'm not clear on exactly when we're going to do it and how we're going to limit the upcoming meeting, if at all.
Actually, the upcoming meeting was limited to signs and working through some of the challenges of the current ordinance that you have as first reading. If we want a broader beach use discussion, that would take some significant preparation from multiple disciplines, so we won't be prepared for that on June 3rd. We will be discussing some of the challenges with, for example, as Mr. Kurzman pointed out, using language that is from the visible water line versus 50 feet from the mean high water line. Those are things we're starting to vet through some of the feedback we're receiving from the community, and bringing that forward to that meeting about that specific ordinance.
I think it's a little more complicated, because the question is, why does anyone want a sign on the beach? And I think you have to understand the why behind that to be able to make a good decision on the signs. So some of it seems to be, from the feedback I've been getting from the property owners, it has to do with the alcohol policy that we have in our city ordinances. Some cities don't have an alcohol ordinance for the beach. That might make a big difference. And then some people are located next to a very popular establishment that brings people to our beach, and they use alcohol, and it influences the neighbors a lot more than it does in other places on the beach. So there's a handful of properties that have been very vocal to me, and I've been trying to reach a solution with the sheriff. So I feel like we need to accelerate the process on this if we feel like it's a significant pain point, which I'm hearing.
So you'll have your opportunity on June 9th, which is the first reading of the 2 of the 3-part beach ordinance we're bringing forward. So we're hoping to keep June 3rd very narrow, around the 60-day time clock we have of whether you want to adopt a second reading and what changes you would make just on signs. And then June 9th, you have your first reading on the beach ordinance related to uses on the beach on public versus private, as well as the wildlife, turtle lighting, skimmer protections, all animal protections. And so you'll have, we're expecting some significant interaction and conversation. We've done quite a bit of engagement with our beach stewardship committee, as well as the planning board, because there are some recommended zoning changes. So I would encourage you to encourage the public to come out for that meeting as well, because that's the broader beach discussion. That's where alcohol use is included or not is included in those ordinances.
Okay, that's great. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, thank you. Interesting topic you brought up there, Mr. Kurzman.
I do have one more public comment.
Oh, I'm sorry, we do it, thank you. Sorry, we have one more public comment. I apologize. Thank you, City Clerk.
Cameron Mizuchi.
How you doing?
Good, sir, how are you?
Yeah. I just wanted to...
Sir, I'm sorry, could you get your name and address?
Yeah, my
please?
name's Cameron Mizucci, 3307 West Maritana Drive, over in the Don Cesar neighborhood.
Thanks, sir.
I can speak for several people that I've spoken to in our neighborhood. You know, you were talking about your experience with mangroves and how you enjoyed them. My experience is different. I grew up going to my grandparents' house, which I now own. I bought from my family. And we grew up playing on the dock. Actually, my kids were just under the dock yesterday, playing with similar crabs, pulling them off the dock and playing with them and then putting them back or putting them in a new location. So I have an experience as well. It's different. And I enjoy not having mangroves. And I know people have mangroves, and it's a nuisance for them. And they don't know how low they can trim them. They get bugs. In one instance, there's mangroves that have grown up so far around the seawall that needs to be fixed that the person I spoke to that was going to do the seawall said it would be $30,000 just to try to move the mangroves around to where they can get to the seawall. So we start thinking we can fix a solution. And even in that gentleman's comments, he mentioned something about, oh, well, there's coral that could grow and things like that. But he also said that could open up another can of worms in getting something in the future if you wanted a permit, because now you have things that you can't touch. So I think another thing he said that caught my attention was never really got to do a project like this. You know what? We already had a failed attempt at a project that's never been attempted in our spillways. We don't need another project to be the first in line to try something. Personally, that's not for me. And I can't help but to think that this thing has been spearheaded by someone who used to sit up here. And they no longer sit up here because, personally, they didn't have good ideas. And they were voted out. And this person, in my opinion, is seeking to get a free seawall at the expense of other people. Now, if this is just, you can choose to have this, okay. I would also suggest, is your neighbor going to have a say if you put mangroves up or something that brings in these nuisance? Are they going to have a say? Because I have a neighbor who wanted to build their property up, but the neighbor said, well, that's going to create shade at my pool, so I'm not going to give you a variance. So I'm just wondering what other consequences are going to be down the road. And I don't want to sell out the whole neighborhood. And I don't know where this leads. Does this lead to everybody with a seawall? Is it going to be forced to have mangroves or some other oyster beds? We play in that water on a regular basis. If there's oyster beds under my dock, there's like 3 feet of water. Those things are razor blades, and they carry a lot of bacteria. It's very dangerous. So those aren't not necessarily the best place for oyster beds. Oyster beds can be put all over the place, but we need to think about, nature's playground and also doing what's right. I mean, we know seawalls work. Can I just say one last thing?
Quickly, yes, sir.
Yeah, thanks. A seawall's just like a roof. There's a shelf life, and we need to be responsible for that as homeowners. And I think every homeowner I've talked to is fine with paying for a seawall. It's theirs. They know they have to upkeep it, and that's just part of the process. So we should look at it like that.
Thanks, sir.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for your feedback.
I have no further audience comments.
Thank you, City Clerk. I think we move on to the consent agenda. And I think we've already removed item D from this. And so, is there a motion?
I move to approve the consent agenda as amended.
I second.
Clerk, please.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
Yes.
Commissioner Causey,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Commissioner Marriott,
Yes.
and Mayor Tate.
Yes.
The motion carries.
Okay. We have a set of ordinances. City Attorney, would you please read the ordinance?
This is the final reading of ordinance 2026-12, the fiscal year 2026 budget amendment. An ordinance of the City of St. Pete Beach, Florida, providing for an amendment to the budget for fiscal year 2026 by increasing appropriations for expenditures in the general fund building fund, wastewater, reclaimed water fund, stormwater fund, and construction project fund, providing for codification, conflicts, severability, correction of scrivener's error, construction, publication, and effective date.
Thank you. Is there a staff report? Good evening.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Devin Schmidt, Finance Director for the City of St. Pete Beach. I don't have a staff report since we went through the presentation at the first reading, so unless there's any questions I can address from you all, there's no changes to what was previously presented.
Okay. I don't know if there's any, should I check and see if there's any audience comments or any questions that are associated with this?
I have no audience comments.
Okay, thank you. Any commissioner comments? Okay. Is there a motion, please?
Motion to adopt ordinance 2026-12.
Second?
Commissioner Causey,
Yes.
Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Commissioner Marriott,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
Yes.
and Mayor Tate.
Yes.
The motion carries.
I think our second ordinance on our agenda got waived earlier. And so we do have an action item. And so is there a staff report on our action item, please? Or
Thank
city
you,
manager's
Mayor.
report, thank you.
City Commission introduced the item of the city clerk annual evaluation for the public's benefit and record. The city clerk, city manager, and city attorney serve at the pleasure of the city commission and are considered charter officers. And one of the special privileges we get is to have a public evaluation in the state of Florida under our sunshine laws. Tonight is you're considering the annual evaluation for our city clerk, Renee Rose. The city commission when I was hired, established a process where the charter officers would participate in a 360 evaluation, which includes the commission, set of their peers, which for Madam City Clerk is the city directors, as well as her direct reports. She also completed a self-assessment and presented her goals for the upcoming year, accomplishments from the last year, as well as she submits a consideration for any amendments to her employment agreement. Tonight, she will do a small presentation, verbal. All of the materials are in the public published agenda as in compliance with Florida sunshine laws. And after her brief presentation, the commission may ask questions, have any conversation, comments, and then any direction to changes to her employment agreement to the city attorney and myself, in which we will take those back and bring any recommended changes from the commission to the next regularly scheduled meeting for consideration of adoption.
Thank you.
Good evening, Mayor and Commission. Included in your packet is my annual performance evaluation materials, including the 360 evaluation summary and comments, self-evaluation, accomplishments, goals for the upcoming evaluation cycle, and compensation information for your consideration. I appreciate the time and feedback provided through this process. Feedback received through the evaluation process reflected strong themes related to professionalism, responsiveness, organization, collaboration, and support provided to both the Commission and staff. Constructive feedback included continuing to improve delegation, measurable goal setting, and team development opportunities, which are reflected in the goals outlined for the next evaluation cycle. Included in the packet is a compensation information for consideration, including a salary survey of municipal clerks within Pinellas County that was just recently updated in January, historical compensation information for the position, and a comparison table reflecting various adjustment scenarios. In addition to the proposed contract language regarding future COLA and merit eligibility consistent with general employees, I am respectfully requesting a consideration of a one-time market-based salary adjustment based on the scope of the position and operational responsibilities of the city clerk's office and the evaluation feedback received through this process.
Thank you. I know I'm going to turn it over in just a moment to the City Commission, but I want to see if there's any public comment or any items received. City Clerk?
No public comment.
Thank you. I will open up to City Commission questions, please. Commissioner Causey, you won the race.
I was just wondering if you could, which city seems to be the most similar job busyness or description that you have here in our city? On the, let's see which page that was, page 157 or 160 in the packet.
I don't have the packet in front of me, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
okay, yeah. Well, okay, so it just tells all of the cities in Pinellas County mostly here and shows the salary ranges. And I wanted to get a feel for what your opinion was on what's similar and what's not similar.
I don't know that I could speak to that without knowing their inner workings and how they're structured.
Okay, thank you.
I did consider the population as well in each of those cities.
Yeah, I was looking at that, yeah.
Yeah, I'm looking for that. What page was it, please, sir?
157.
Right after Appendix B.
Yeah.
Okay. Okay. All right. Yeah, it's scam. I'm actually.
Says 2025 clerk salary survey on the agenda packet, hot link.
Thank you.
That's not,
It's going to take me a moment to get there. I apologize. I'm going down, so if anybody has a question, I'd happily entertain other questions while I'm looking to find it. I'm scrolling, and it keeps failing on me here. I apologize.
Okay. I'll ask.
Commissioner Robinson.
Renee, you had put in, based on the recent salary survey, commission range from 108 to 112. I think that's where they were getting to. What cities were you referring to, or where were you referring to? But you didn't, that was what you wrote.
Right, right, and that was just based on an average of the city's amount and population as well.
Okay, I don't know which ones you took, because if I look at this, I'm looking at similar population, similar CMC certification. I'm even looking at lower cities. I mean, I think I see a high, correct me if I'm wrong, everybody, at 100. No certification over at Treasure Island at 108. I mean, I guess that would be the high, 108 for Treasure Island.
For which population are you looking at?
I'm just looking at 65. I mean, I could go, if we're going strictly on that, you know, looking at, there's nothing else that's really close other than Oldsmar and Gulfport that are close to 9,000. Everything else, you've got something lower than that and higher than those.
Well, I've got
Hang
a
on, please.
question.
I just want to make sure. I want to give you time. I don't know if you have another question. or just
That
coming.
would
Okay.
be it.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Commissioner Causey, please.
Could you clarify what MMC and CMC, and then I noticed, for example, in Bel Air Beach, there's no certification.
No, there's not, because I had the CMC there and I left.
Oh, okay. Could
So-
it be replaced? Yeah,
Yes.
right. So MMC, is that a higher certification?
Yes, it is. So we have an International Institute of Municipal Clerks, and so the MMC is a Master Municipal Clerk,
Okay.
and a CMC is a Certified Municipal Clerk. I earned my CMC just prior to coming to Florida, and then I am currently actively working on my MMC.
Thank you. Commissioner Marriott, please.
Sure, thank you. Thanks, Renee. I know this is super fun to do in public.
Yeah.
Comes
So-
with the territory.
Yeah, exactly. So I wanted to start by saying I appreciate everything you've done since you've been here. You know, the city has come off of a couple years of a lot of turmoil. And I, for one, really appreciate the level of calm competence that you have created around you. And I appreciate that you create that atmosphere in the clerk's office and encourage it in the city. I think, and I've told you this before, I think you're doing a great job. You know, when we interviewed Renee for the position, was that just a year ago? She said, what do you want to see in a clerk? And I said, gosh, I would really love to see somebody who just can do their job and not have there be anything else happen besides them doing their job. And I think you've done exactly that. And so, so I really appreciate everything you've done for us. I think you're doing a fantastic job. I hope you stay for many, many years. And I think it's fantastic when anybody negotiates for a better salary for themselves, particularly when women do that, because that's something that historically a lot of women don't do for themselves. And so, so I applaud you for being willing to do that. For me, I would feel very comfortable in on the very last page. I think there's or second to the last page, there's a little chart with some scenarios there, with the cost of living increase, the cost of living plus the 2% merit, and then the various percentage adjustments. I would be very comfortable in giving Renee the 10% adjustment, which would be a little less than she asked for, but more than she's getting now. And so that's my opinion of that.
Commissioner Maldonado.
Thank you. And Renee, thank you again for your service. Without a doubt, you're punching above your weight. We did a very lengthy interview. Got to really know not only the inner workings of the office, but also your aspirations and goals and how you're mentoring those that work for you. And that alone is weight in gold. So I would say that I'm at the 12%. I do believe that you're underpaid, given your history and the experience that you bring from another city. And then looking at the comparisons to the other ones, it's very difficult. I do think that in this environment, in this current economy, that a 12% adjustment is very fair. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Question for you, please. I'm new, so I didn't get a chance to interview you. I will say I really enjoy working with you as well. I found you, even as I did your review, and I made note a few times that we haven't worked long enough for me to see your staff interaction, but your interaction with me has been wonderful, and I appreciate all that you've helped me get my feet underneath me, not only through the campaign and keeping me on the straight and narrow there, but all the way through here, and I appreciate it. I do want to touch a little bit. I'll give you a little background on why I'm asking this question. I personally come from the private sector, and I did a little research, and I will tell you that in most cases, many private sector companies are given 3 to 5%. And I think you're punching above that. So don't get me wrong. That's my first statement, right? And I think they generally reserve the higher numbers for people that are aspiring, to advance their careers and are. To Commissioner Maldonado's statement, again, punching above your weight. So I want to explore a little bit your I don't know what it's called. Is it MCM, MMC?
MMC.
MMC versus you're currently a CMC, and you're pursuing an MMC. Can you tell me how that's going and how much time you have left and where your aspirations on finishing and those kind of things? Just tell me about your training.
It does take about 4 years to get up to the MMC level. I did unfortunately have a setback when I was at Bel Air Beach because there wasn't an opportunity to go to trainings as much as I would have preferred.
Sorry to hear that.
So I am kind of a little bit behind, but I am doing everything that I can to get that as accelerated as I can.
Do you know when you expect to finish the program, or do you have a goal in mind?
My goal would probably be 2 years.
Okay, so you're halfway through it, feels like?
I believe so. I'd have to go back and look at my certification numbers.
I'll just tell you, again, in my private industry career, 10-12% raise are usually elevated for someone that's getting a promotion, in this case going from a CMC to an MMC. So I frankly would love to see us, certainly you deserve a raise, to be clear with you. But maybe somewhere meet in the middle that then we get you where you want to be with the MMC, plus the cost of living at that point if it's 2 years out, but kind of get you more market where we are now. And then, assuming you have the aspiration of finishing up the MMC, you'll become more valuable to the city even beyond where you are right now. And so that's kind of where I'm just mentally kind of thinking. But I'll echo Commissioner Marriott's comment. I wouldn't want to be sitting negotiating my public salary in front of everybody. So I applaud you even for that. So thank you very much. And I'll just kind of hold until I can get some other feedback.
Sure.
Thank you. Mr. Robinson.
I as well come from the private sector, and it's COLA plus really right now these days is about 2%.
because the state of the economy, unfortunately, that is, low, although the COLA has increased a little bit. I as well feel that a 12% is high for a first year without the MMC or any sort of upward movement. I know that I had asked about the prior clerk's salary, and her ending was after 5 years of employment. So you've got the COLAs, you've got the merits on top of that, et cetera, et cetera. I would be, looking at maybe something, I guess it actually comes at a little lower, maybe the, a COLA plus even maybe a 3, which I think comes out to about the 8%. Or it couldn't come out to the 8%, but that, like a 6% on that, 3 and the 3. That's, again, I have to state that our city is in a, we're still in gray skies. We're not in blue skies yet, financially. And that, 12% is a big jump for a first year.
Mr. Causey.
I would like to tell you that my old CEO, he always told us that, I know that you would do this job for free because it was so much fun. And there was almost never any kind of cost of living adjustments, but we would do contracts 3 or plus years, and so you end up getting behind, and then you catch up at the end of several years. But it seems bad while you're waiting and you're feeling underpaid. I would lean more towards an adjustment rather than a cost of living, and maybe that's just because of my background. And I'm not sure what's appropriate on cost of living anyway. It seems like it's outrageous. So I would be somewhere around the 8 or 10% adjustment at this point, and we'd be really excited to see what we could do when you go to the MMC level.
Thank you, Commissioner Maldonado.
Okay, so I started with the Santa Claus at 12%. I'm willing to come down to the 10%. The difference between 8 and 10 is approximately $166 a month. So I think that if we're splitting hairs, I'll split them with you. I'll see year 10 and keep it there. So.
Look, I think I can support that. I think for me, I'm excited that you're on the MMC path, which means you're wanting to grow, hopefully, and stay with the city of St. Pete Beach. We'd love to have you, and you're advancing your career. You're not, to me, yes, you want to be commensurate with your peers around you, but the reason you do that from a management perspective, again, in the private sector, is because you see somebody really looking to advance their career and looking to frankly provide more value to the city as their skill set grows. So I would support a 10 as well, frankly.
Do we need to do anything official?
I just need direction, but they'll vote on it when we bring it. But I want to restate what I think I heard, unless you want to vote.
No, you go ahead.
Okay. So I heard the majority supports a 10% one-time adjustment, and I just want to confirm, I heard Commissioner Marriott say plus the contract language provided for. There wasn't further discussion about that, which was to align future CPIs, and we have a merit increase built into that for fiscal year 27.
Right, so the one-time adjustment would be 10%, and then going forward would be the cost of living adjustment plus merit if warranted,
And dependent on what was provided all other employees.
Right.
I concur.
Can you state that last, dependent on?
Yeah.
So the merit is largely dependent on the city manager and designing those systems. We have, and we bring those through the budget process. So if the commission were to approve a compensation package during the budget process, essentially what you're saying is it applies to the city clerk as well. So for example, we apply cost of living in October of every year based on the budget cycle. So you'll be seeing those numbers soon. So if the cost of living, we use the May numbers because we have that number to actually give you a real life budgetary impact. This contract language would essentially allow me to process a cost of living adjustment for her at the same time, which would be October of this year. And then for fiscal year 26, we implemented a merit-based system that could give up 1 or 2%, basically merit pay for fiscal year 26. We'll be proposing that same exact merit-based system for 27, and then hope to phase it out as my new HR director looks at our compensation system as a whole, because there are still some adjustments and fixes that need to be made despite the implementation of the pay plan that happened upon my arrival. So I'm going to be using her expertise to link that to performance management and advancement in any sort of pay scale that exists in the city right now, that we don't really have that structure in place. So that's the plan. Essentially, with all that, you would be aligning the city clerk with whatever the city manager is putting in place through the budget process. So I wouldn't have to come back for a separate contract amendment for the city clerk every time we did some sort of cost of living adjustment.
Okay.
And then her future performance evaluations would simply be asking for performance pay, not necessarily market adjustments or cost of living, unless the market somehow went wacky and she comes back and says, now city clerks are getting paid $200,000 a year. I'm just throwing that out there.
I'm going for my CMC.
And then the market drives the discussion, but
Yep.
she would have those discussions separate with you.
Understood. Okay, thank you.
So that's reflected in the second amendment that's attached to your packet, that language. And then to make sure we're all on the same page, the percentage would be 107,217 would be the number we fill in that blank in section 1.2. So we'll put that number in, and then we'll bring this back to you and put it on consent agenda at the next meeting. Okay.
Just need
Looking forward to the city manager's review next, I guess.
It's going to be very exciting, yes.
These are fun things. I'm sorry that you have to do this. I really am. Some of these sunshine laws, I shake my head at it sometimes. But thank you for indulging us through this. I wish we could have done this in a more informal
Right.
forum. So,
Well, we do need a motion.
okay. Do I have a motion, please?
Yes, so, city attorney, you can help me. The motion is, do we need a motion now? Because we would make a motion when the contract comes back to us, right?
You can make a motion later, but the consensus is for 10%, which is 107,217.
Yeah.
To be filled in section 1.2 of the draft second amendment, and then we'll bring that back to you on consent agenda for a vote.
Can I ask, for poor Renee's sake, does this have to come back to us a second time? Or I feel like we're here, do we have to do it twice and have
If
this?
you want to fill it in tonight and you're comfortable with it, and you've
I mean,
got the second addendum, then we can fill
I would
it.
hate to personally be dragged through this twice publicly, but so I would tell you, for her favor, I'd soon wrap it up.
The motion will be to fill in the blank at 107,217. $107,217.
Okay, well, I'll make a motion that we adjust the pay for the city clerk, Renee, a 10% adjustment. That's 107,217.
Ralph, you also want to include the language about the COLA and merit in the future?
That's already in there. It says, employees' base salary shall be increased as of September 28, 2026, to match any increase granted for the cost of living adjustments, COLA, at the same COLA percentage increase as the general and management employees. beginning fiscal year 2026-2027 and continuing thereafter during the term of the agreement, employees shall be eligible to receive annual cost of living adjustment, COLA percentage increases, and merit-based compensation adjustments on the same basis as those approved for general employees, subject to satisfactory performance evaluations and approval by the City Commission.
Okay, I second.
Okay. Commissioner Maldonado,
Yes.
Commissioner Marriott,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Robinson,
No?
Commissioner Causey,
Yes.
and Mayor Tate.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, thank you. Let's see, items for discussion. I think we had, Commissioner Robinson had an item for discussion.
I believe we all received the same email chain from Danielle regarding her finds on the beach regarding shark fishing and the dangers that that does leave behind, and safety concerns for people that walk the beach, the lines that are left, and also the fact that other cities have as well issued bans on the shark fishing on the beach. I don't know about the chumming offshore, if that is indeed happening, but there was mention of that as well, which would bring concerns of bringing any sort of predators closer inland than necessary, than would be normal. I just wanted to bring this up because I feel that there are concerns when we do fish off of piers. There are things that you can put your monofilament in. You can, dispose of your lines, things to that effect. But when we have blatant disregard and being left out on the beach for, young children that come on the week or weekends, or just adults, any of us that walk the beach, and there are people that walk in the beach very early in the mornings and won't be able to see that. I just have concerns, safety concerns on that, and want to see what the rest of the commission felt, if we should consider any sort of ban or limitation or anything to that effect.
Commissioner Maldonado.
So interestingly enough, I had this conversation with the city attorney and city manager earlier today. I personally witnessed a fisherman doing shore-based shark fishing at Paso Grill in a very, very crowded environment this weekend. I actually hooked a tourist. Luckily, it was his shorts and not his skin. But just continued to reel it in, like no regard for the person that he had hooked. And then at the very end of it, left the chum there, just threw the chum back into the water. And my thought was, what if he did catch a shark? How do you release that thing? Missed hundreds of people swimming around in waist-deep water. The other thing is that he was using a large drone, a very large drone. If that thing were to lose control, either on the sand or over water, it could cause problems to people. I will say that Treasure Island has banned shore-based shark fishing. Indian Shores has banned shore-based shark fishing. And Reddington Shores has banned shore-based shark fishing. It seems to be something that our neighbors are doing, and out of safety concerns. But more importantly, I think that the other thing that needs to be considered or discussed is how we're training these sharks to react. Are we encouraging them to not follow their normal patterns and routines? Are we encouraging them to come closer to shore and come in contact with people? Sharks are normally not aggressive and not dangerous. I want to dispel any notion that they're dangerous on their own normally unless provoked. Most bites are accidental. When that happens between humans and sharks, the shark quickly realizes it's not its prey that it was going over. But I am concerned with the stuff that folks are leaving behind, that people pick up when they're out there cleaning up our shores. But to see this happen in a very crowded environment and have no regard whatsoever for tourists and residents, shame on that person. I mean, absolutely shameful. That's how I feel about that.
Thank you. Mr. Marriott.
Sure.
So I think that, I think we already have in our ordinances some prohibitions against fishing near people who are swimming. And I think we potentially just need to look at ways to enforce that. I think that, I mean, I know that some of our neighbors to the north have instituted shark fishing bans from the shore. I do know also that recently in Marco Island, they were looking at passing an ordinance to ban shark fishing and backed off of that idea when Florida Fish and Wildlife came in and said, we're going to back the guys who want to fish for sharks from the shore because it's a constitutionally protected activity. So I'm not sure, you know, I'm not sure how much we want to get into trying to pass an ordinance that maybe wouldn't be defensible. I don't know if the city attorney knows anything about what happened in Marco Island or anything that that's going on there. And I would be much more interested if there's anything we can do to ban chumming more so than fishing from shore, which, you know, beach fishing is, I think, enshrined in the Florida Constitution, fishing from the beach. And I don't know that we can, although some cities have passed ordinances against it, I'm not, you know, that it may just be that they haven't been challenged. But I would be much more interested in banning the part that's truly dangerous, which would be the chumming close to shore.
You know, I think for me, it's I'm horrified that someone continues to reel their pole in after they hopefully didn't realize that they caught somebody. You know, but if they did, I mean, truly shame on them. What kind of neighbor are you? I'm frankly interested in what Commissioner Marriott said about whether there's already legalities. I feel like we get into this all the time. I think some of these things are, you know, some of these decisions that we go back and forth on are fairly, you can find 45% of the people on either side of it. I don't think there's a huge percentage of people that are saying they want shark fishing off our beaches, especially not chumming, to your point. But I would love to hear the legalities of it. If City Attorney, you have some guidance for us that might help us. I certainly, you know, I don't think it's a high demand thing to go out and shark fish off St. Pete Beach, but I know it happens, and I can imagine if we went down the path that said we ban it, whether it's constitutionally preempted already, but chumming may not be. I'd love to get some guidance on where we might be able to limit our exposure here. Because I also wonder, you know, chumming occurs or sharks don't get caught or whatever it is, and a swimmer gets hurt, you know, but yet we allowed this, or we increasing our liability as a city by allowing it. So I'd love to get the liability kind of aspect of it and what we could do within our purvey that doesn't get preempted elsewhere.
Okay. I think the consensus is for me to put together a memorandum of law with supporting documents and bring that back to you, which I'll do.
It's a nice restatement.
Yep.
Thank you.
I've dealt with this with a couple of different cities already, so I've got a good head start on it.
All right. All right.
Just to be a broken record, the upcoming beach ordinance has a proposal that chumming the water when fishing for any species from the beach or when wade fishing in waters adjacent to the beach is prohibited, and disposing of any carcasses obtained by fishing other than when following best practices of the Florida Fish and Wildlife Commission. So, good news. Ralph should be ready for a liability discussion at the beach ordinance first reading on June 9th.
Okay.
And if you would like to add something or expand, that will be your opportunity to do so in that first reading presentation. So.
Yeah, thank you. I mean, I think I'm intrigued by what Commissioner Marriott said with regards to chumming and drawing the, you know, I won't say predators, that's the wrong word, but drawing the animals in, right? And you know, how we can mitigate it without directly, overtly going against fishing from the beach is kind of a common use, so.
I'd like to also add the drone portion to the discussion, whether that requires licensing and what prohibitions over city-owned property we have.
Okay, thank you. I think we've got direction on that. So now we're looking for reports, please. City Clerk, do you have anything to report?
I just want to remind the elected officials and the applicable staff that Form 1 statements of financial interest are due by July 1st, 2026, and must be filed electronically through the state's EFDMS system. The reminder emails from the Florida Commission on Ethics will be sent in the coming weeks. Elected officials are also required annual requirements to complete a 4-hour ethics training. The Florida League of Cities is offering a webinar training opportunity on July 15th, and Madeira Beach is actually hosting an in-person viewing option for those interested. Information on both options was recently distributed by email.
Thank you. City Manager?
Yes, I'm pleased to announce and hopeful that I've been advised by Representative Cheney, as well as our state legislature, that we have a few requests, earmarks to the state that have progressed to the governor's desk for signature, which means they have made it completely through the budget process. Those currently are a $1.5 million additional earmark for Fire Station 22, a $2 million earmark for Pass Grill wastewater lift station repair and renovation, and a $1.825 million earmark for Boca Ciega Drive. So fingers crossed, and our representatives are up in Tallahassee working diligently to try to keep these alive. And once I find out, I will definitely report it to you all and the public. Thank you.
Thank you. That's good news. Thank you very much. City Attorney, please.
Nothing further. Thank you.
Thank you. District 4, sir.
Again, thank you to you, Mayor, for attending our community meeting. It was very well attended, and we really enjoyed just getting to know you a little bit better, to hearing your vision and your way forward for St. Pete Beach. So thank you.
Thank you. Commissioner Causey, please.
Nothing to add.
Commissioner Robinson?
Just want to say thank you to Fire Ops. I attended the Fire Ops 101, and it is a difficult job, not that I didn't already know that. But suiting it in the gear, putting it all on, trying to huff up a flight of stairs with all the gear and the tank on the back was interesting, to say the least. So thank you to everybody for that. And it was nice to hang out with Jody from HR, so that she was there as well. Also wanted to mention this Thursday, May 28th, there is an open, it's District 2, but it's open to everybody for discussing historic designation. It is important to reconsider that as an option for those that haven't yet elevated or on the fence about elevating. It is a good option to do. It's free. I'd like everybody to come out here, hear about what you can do if you historically designate your home, especially in light of the 2025 FEMA letter that's out there now for the wind mitigation letter. That is roughly 50% of what your valuation was before. So this will add value. If you historically designate your home, it adds value to both the community and potentially to your home for if you decide there's not a storm, but you can't sweat it out. You're doing the prayer plan, praying that nothing happens, and you just can't do it anymore, and you're looking to sell. Historically designating your home might help to add a little extra value to that as well. So something to consider across the board in the community. So that's this Thursday, May 28th. It's really more of a workshop from 6 to 7:30 p.m. And then I wanted to mention I do have my library hours. I'm doing a monthly 5 to 5:45 p.m. looking at the first of every month, the first Monday of every month. There are 2 exceptions. That will be July. In July, it'll be July 8th. It's a Wednesday, so it's the first Wednesday of the month. And then it'll be September 14th. It is a Monday, but the first Monday is Labor Day, so I don't think anybody wants to show up for that. So move that date to September 14th. And hope to see everybody there.
Thank you. Commissioner Marriott.
Thanks. A quick thank you to the Sheriff's Office for thoroughly investigating an issue we had in District 1 of some not very nice contractor dumping debris on vacant lots and lots that have new construction happening. And so if you are living in your neighborhood and you have vacant lots near you, please keep your eyes open and pay attention to what's going on and try to know your neighbors and help your neighbors. So hopefully we won't have any more of that happening again. And also, thank you to everybody who was at the beach this weekend on Memorial Day weekend. It was a beautiful weekend, and the beach was pretty crowded, although not the most packed I've ever seen it, but it was also packed full of largely families having a fantastic time on the beach. And I heard of no drama on the beach, and it was just lovely and full of people having a great time and getting along with everybody and having a wonderful weekend. So thanks to everybody who came to the beach this weekend.
Yeah, thank you. I'll echo as well. I know it was Memorial Day weekend. I come from a military family. I appreciate everybody. I appreciate the cities, making a note of not only are we celebrating and enjoying the beach, but why we have Memorial Day in the first place. So thank you to all who observed, and I know we've got some interesting things coming up. This is a really 250th year of our country, so I know there's some really great plans coming up for our 4th of July event and other things. So I look forward to more of these community events and kind of building our community, all the opportunities we can to smile is what I'm looking forward to seeing. So let's go have some fun while we do important work. So thank you. With that, there being no further business, we are adjourned. Thank you.